24/7 control and coordination. Regulation of life. We have learned about various life processes like nutrition, respiration, excretion, digestion, etc., which are essential for the survival of every individual. In all living organisms, life processes such as digestion and respiration, growth and development must occur simultaneously one after the other because these activities are directly or indirectly linked with each other. For example, food material taken in through ingestion has to be digested and later oxidized to obtain energy through the process of respiration. This energy is utilized for growth and development of the organism. Thus, there is a need for proper regulation of these life activities for a better survival of the living organisms. Movement is a characteristic feature of all living things. Both plants and animals show movement, but movements in animals are noticeable and fast, whereas in plants, the movement is not spotted readily. Germination is the first stage in the life cycle of a plant seed, which ultimately develops into a seedling. The movement of the seedling is because of its growth. If growth is prevented, the seedling does not show any movement. Some of the movements exhibited by many animals and some plants are not related to growth. Let us look into some examples to understand this. Mimosa plant, commonly known as touch-me-not plant, closes its leaves on touching. Thus, if we consider the examples of mimosa plant and the seedling, we can conclude that the plants exhibit two types of movements. One movement is growth-dependent movement, as shown by the seed growing into a seedling. The other type is growth-independent movement, as shown by the leaves of the mimosa plant. A cow grazing in the field, birds flying in the sky, or your pet dog running on ground are all examples of growth-independent movements. We associate all visible movements with life. The movements may be in response to a change in the environment of the organism. As animals cannot prepare their own food, they move from one place to another in search of food, water, and shelter. They run to escape from their enemies. Some movements are made by the living organisms to benefit from the changes in their environment. Plants tend to show movement in response to sunlight, air, and water. Roots of plant show downward movement of growth towards water. Plants bend towards sunlight for their growth. Herbivores or grass-eating animals such as cows, buffaloes, and deer feed primarily on grass, leaves, and hay. The herbivorous animals are unable to directly break down the cellulose present in the complex plant materials due to the absence of cellulase enzyme in their digestive system. The undigested and partly digested food is called cud. The cud stored in the rumen later returns to the mouth in small amounts. The animal keeps on chewing this cud continuously. This movement helps in breaking up complex food to facilitate better digestion. Movements are also made to protect ourselves in response to any change detected. For instance, when bright light is focused on the eyes, the pupil of the eyes contract. Similarly, on touching a hot object, we quickly withdraw our hands. All the movements made in response to any change in the environment are carefully controlled. The change in the surroundings elicits a suitable movement in response depending on the event that triggers it. Coordination. What is coordination? In any multicellular organism, there are various tissue systems and organ systems. For proper functioning of an organism, there has to be a perfect coordination among different organs and systems and various stimuli from their surroundings. For example, in higher plants, the process of photosynthesis and respiration are linked to each other for the purpose of exchange of gases. In human beings, digestive system is linked to circulatory system for the supply of absorbed food materials to the cells. In digestive system itself, coordination occurs between different digestive glands and organs. It is necessary that all the organs and systems should function together in a systematic and controlled manner to carry out a particular life process. In other words, the various organs should cooperate with one another. Thus, control refers to the systematic regulation of various activities, and coordination means the orderly execution of these activities. This results in proper growth and development of the organism. Let's do a quick check.
In the life cycle of a plant seed, which ultimately develops into a seedling. Germination. The movement of the seedling is because of its food is oxidized to obtain energy through the process of oxidation, respiration. In higher plants, the process of photosynthesis and respiration are linked to each other for the purpose of in human beings, digestive system is linked to dash for the supply of absorbed food materials to the cells. Blood circulation, circulatory system. Last માં જ હમણાં જોયું ને થોડી વાર પહેલા જ.
Nervous system in animals. Multicellular organisms have specialized tissues associated with the control and coordination. The structural organization of the nervous system in animals depend on the complexity of the organism. In case of unicellular protozoan amoeba, we do not find a nervous system. The cell is sensitive enough to control all its life processes and activities through its body surface. In case of certain coelenterates like Hydra, the nervous system is at a very primitive stage of development. It has a network of nerve cells joined to one another and spread throughout its body. In case of annelidans like earthworm, number of nerve cells come together and form a cluster called ganglion. These clusters are joined together to form a beaded structure called the nerve cord. In higher animals, the system of control and coordination is more complex. Let us now understand about the control and coordination in human beings. Control and coordination in human beings. In human beings, different activities take place simultaneously. For example, life processes such as respiration and circulation. The oxygen taken inside the body through respiration is transported to different parts of the body through circulation. These related activities are well coordinated within the body. Apart from these, there are other metabolic activities which, although take place simultaneously, are still coordinated efficiently and effectively inside the body. The coordination of different activities of the body are controlled by two mechanisms, namely the nervous control and the chemical control. Let us now study the human nervous system. Human nervous system. The nervous system in human beings is divided into three branches, namely the central nervous system or CNS, the peripheral nervous system or PNS, and the autonomic nervous system or ANS. The central nervous system comprises of the brain and the spinal cord. The central nervous system regulates all the activities of the body. The peripheral nervous system includes all the nerves. A cylindrical bundle of nerve fibers constitute a nerve. The nerves form a complex network that spreads throughout the body. They connect all the parts of the body to the central nervous system. The autonomic nervous system comprises of nerves present in the involuntary organs which carry out functions that are not controllable at will. For example, heart, stomach, lungs, etc. On the basis of function, the nerves are divided into afferent nerves and efferent nerves. The nerves which carry the information from different parts of the body to the central nervous system are known as afferent nerves, while the nerves which carry instructions from the central nervous system to the different parts of the body are called efferent nerves. The nervous system consists of two types of cells, the neurons and the neuroglia. The neurons or nerve cells are specialized cells capable of coordinating various actions of the body and transmitting electrochemical signals to all the body parts. The neuroglia are non-neuronal cells which provide support and nutrition and maintain homeostasis. In human beings, control and coordination is properly executed with the help of sense organs. Let us study about these sense organs. Sense organs. There are 5 sense organs in our body, namely the eyes, ears, nose, tongue and skin. We receive a variety of information from the surrounding environment through these sensory organs. Special receptors are present within these sense organs. These receptor cells are sensitive to a particular type of stimulus. For example, the eyes have photoreceptors to detect light. The ears have sound receptors to detect sound. The skin has thermoreceptors to detect temperature. The nose has receptors to detect smell. These are known as the olfactory receptors. Smells reach the olfactory receptors by 2 ways. The first pathway is through our nostrils, and the second pathway is through a channel that connects the roof of the throat region to the nose. When we chew our food, aromas are released that access the olfactory receptors through this channel. If the channel is blocked, in situations when our noses are stuffed up from a cold or flu, smells cannot reach the sensory cells and much of our ability to enjoy a food's flavor is lost. Thus, smell is an important part of tasting and enjoying food that we eat. Activity. Let us perform an activity to understand the importance of olfactory receptors in tasting and enjoying food that we eat. Take some sugar and put it in your mouth. Can you sense the sweetness? Yes. Now block your nose by pressing it between your thumb and index finger. Have some more sugar and taste it. Can you notice any difference in the taste? Yes, the sugar doesn't taste as before. Try blocking your nose in the same way while eating lunch. Can you fully appreciate the taste of the food you are eating? No. In the two cases when the nose was blocked, you couldn't fully appreciate the taste. When the nasal channel is blocked, the aromas released from the food cannot reach the olfactory receptors. Thus, we can conclude that the olfactory receptors play an important role in tasting and enjoying food that we eat. The tongue has receptors to detect the taste of food that we eat. These receptors are known as gustatory receptors. There are distinct regions on the tongue where the different tastes are detected. Taste buds present at the tip of the tongue detect sweet taste. Those present at the back detect bitter taste. Taste buds on the side of the tongue can detect salty and sour taste. The taste buds on the tongue transmit the information about the different tastes in the form of a message to the brain. Brain processes the information and tells us what type of food we actually are eating. The nerve cell is the coordinating unit of the nervous system. Let us now study the structure of a nerve cell and the conduction of impulses through nerves. Structure of a nerve cell and conduction of impulses. Neurons are the basic structural and functional units of nervous system. A neuron consists of three main parts, namely the cell body, which is an enlarged part of neuron, with a nucleus in the center, axon, which is a nerve fiber, and dendrites. The dendrites and axons can be called as the processes of the cell body. We come to know that an object is hot or cold by the sense of touch. This information is picked up by the specialized tips of dendrites of a neuron. After this, a chemical reaction is set off. An electrical impulse is produced, which travels from dendrite to the cell body. From the cell body, the impulse travels through the axon to its end. At the end of the first axon, the electrical impulse induces the release of some chemicals. These chemicals pass through a small gap of 2 to 20 nanometers known as synapse, present between the neurons. They start a similar electrical impulse in the dendrite of the next neuron. This is the procedure by means of which the impulses travel in the body. Thus, impulses from the neurons are delivered to the muscle cells or glands. The muscle tissue brings about different actions or movements. For the movement to be done, muscle cells must move. Movement takes place when the muscle cells change their shape. Due to this, the muscle cells shorten. Muscle cells possess special kinds of contractile proteins. These proteins not only bring about a change in the shape of the muscle cells, but also make them capable of responding to the nervous electrical impulse. Thus, the nervous tissue is composed of highly organized network of neurons capable of transferring information in the form of electrical impulses from one part of the body to another. The small gap in between the consecutive neurons is known as synapse, through which impulse is conducted by chemical means. As we have studied the conduction of impulses through neurons, let us now understand the different types of neurons performing specialized functions. Classification of neurons. The neurons are classified into three groups, namely the sensory neurons, the motor neurons, and the association neurons. Sensory neurons, or the afferent neurons, transmit sensory impulses from the skin and other sensory organs or from various places within the body towards the central nervous system. Motor neurons, or efferent neurons, transmit nerve impulses from the central nervous system towards effectors, target cells such as muscles, sweat glands, and exocrine glands that produce some kind of response. Association neurons, or interneurons, are located in the central nervous system and transmit impulses from sensory neurons to motor neurons. Let us study some examples which will reflect our responses to certain situations in our day-to-day life. While crossing the road, if we see a motor car coming towards us with our eyes, our hand is raised up to signal the car to stop. If this is not possible, then suddenly we increase our walking speed and try to cross the road quickly so that the car can pass through without any accident. When we smell something delicious with our nose, our mouth starts watering and we feel the urge to eat that delicious food. When we suddenly hear a loud noise with our ears, we are startled and we try to find out the cause behind this event. When we step on a very sharp object with a bare foot, our skin gets hurt and we suddenly scream. As we analyze these four situations, we understand that different sense organs are involved in gathering the information from the environment. As a result, a sudden reaction takes place in response to such situations. Reflex action. Whenever there is any sudden action in response to some happening in the environment, it is called reflex. In a reflex action, we react to certain situations without thinking about it, or sometimes without feeling in control of our reaction. These actions are in response to the stimulus received from our surrounding. Let us understand how control and coordination is maintained under such situations with the help of an example. Consider the act of touching a vessel containing very hot tea. It is a dangerous situation for us. In this case, we realize the pain and chances of getting wounded. Hence, we withdraw our hand. Under such situations, there is a possibility of two types of reactions, one which occurs slowly and the other which occurs instantaneously. If the impulses were to be conducted through the neurons, then it would take quite some time for us to react to the situation. But the responses to such reactions are quick and immediate. There is a rapid response to the stimulus of heat. Let us see how this happens. Instead of detecting and processing the heat sensation, the nerves that sense heat are connected to the nerves that bring about the movement of the muscle. The nerves from all over the body meet in a bundle, commonly called as the spinal cord, from where the impulses are sent to the brain. Hence, reflex arcs are formed in the spinal cord, although the messages reach the brain. In case of touching the hot object, the pathway for the conduction of impulses of heat is sensed by the thermoreceptors of the skin. This triggers the impulse to sensory neurons from where message is transmitted to spinal cord. Impulse is further passed on to relay neuron, which in turn passes it to motor neuron. The motor neuron passes the impulse to the muscle cells in our arm. Muscles act as an effector organ because it responds to the stimulus perceived by it by exhibiting the withdrawal movement of hand. This pathway along which the impulse travels is called the reflex arc. Reflex arc is thus the shortest route that can be taken by an impulse from a receptor to an effector organ. Now, let us understand why such reflex actions and reflex arcs were evolved. In animals,